no background noise, it should be okay. Kalau tak ada nak
okay, meeting is streaming live.
Dix, signal to us kalau nak masuk live.
Dah masuk live dah.
You should stop stirring now. Should we mute it?
Yeah, we mute now.
Alright.
It's not popping up.
Okay, guys. Right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma ajna minhum wa minal ladzina amanu wa amilus solihat wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. Alhamdulillah, thank you. Assalamualaikum Tan Sri and gang semua for coming. Apa khabar Tan Sri? Bersama kita.
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Our guest speaker, Saudara Tan Sri Azman Mokhtar, or the batch mate panggil batch 78. Sorry?
Bun, you're breaking up.
You okay, Tan Sri?
Yeah, better
I'm
now.
breaking up. Okay, probably the internet connection atau tadi ada signal tak berapa bagus. Sorry about that. I mean, you just take note, auto tap, you can take over. Kalau my line is that bad. All right, today we have a topic, that we presented by our guest speaker, YB Tan Sri Azman Mokhtar, VIRTUS over virus, reflections of life in time of Corona, and a user guide for our ongoing leadership journey. But before we begin, I think it is fitting if I pass this majlis to our president, MCOBA, to give a few welcoming speech, shortcoming speech. Over to you, Tab. Silakan.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thanks, Bun. Azman, Amok, and all the various members of MCOBA. Thank you for coming on to the second of the series of IFL. I think it's really appropriate for us to do something like this right now, especially because what's happening in the country, and especially what's happening in the world as well. So to have my classmate, my batchmate, to be able to reflect on what's happening around the world currently, and also perhaps in terms of what the future will lie for us, will probably be appropriate at this time. It's also nice to have all the various participants in Zoom and also in Facebook today. We even have Mazli from MCOBA Perth representing us. That's great. Everybody from even Kedah, Northern Territories. Well done, guy. Well done, Sai, for doing the rate crossing right throughout for MCOBA. I think that was really well done. So everybody, thank you for being here today. Pass it back to you, Bun.
All right, thank you, President Tab. Right, before we begin, I just introduce myself. My name is Bun, or my formal name is Saruniza Muhammad Syahri from batch 90. Yeah? I think before we start, I think it's more appropriate if I read a little bit about who is our guest speaker. Betul tak? Orang cakap tak kenal maka tak cinta. But I'll just go through a very short one. Right, Tan Sri Azman Mokhtar is currently the Distinguished Visiting Fellow at Centre of Development Studies, University of Cambridge, By Fellow of Darwin College, University of Cambridge, and Adjunct Professor at University Technology Malaysia. He's also currently a member of the Global Future Council on Investing of the World Economic Forum 2019, and a member of the steering committee of the Global Ethical Finance Forum. His research interest is in the area of finance and its impact on society, and in early 2020, he co-founded Fitra Capital Associates. It's a strategy and financial advisory firm established in UAE. Right, if you don't know, Tan Sri Azman is the former managing director of Khazanah National Berhad from June 2004 until July 2018. He was, this Malaysia Strategic Investment Fund. So during this 14-year period, Khazanah established itself as a leading sovereign fund in the region, and its net portfolio rose 3.5 times from 33.3 billion in 2004 to 1,115 billion at the end of 2017. That's a whopping 82.3 billion. Yeah. Thank you, Tan Sri, on behalf of all Malaysian. With that money, you can pay for all the expenses. I think we sold some recently, yeah? And probably expenses about 2.4 billion during this our MCO. And so during his tenure as a CEO in Khazanah, Azman, among others, spearheaded the GLC in his 10-year transformation program from 2005 until 2015. So in the development of Iskandar Malaysia Special Economic Development Zone, the internalization of Khazanah and its companies into China, India, Southeast Asia, Turkey, Middle East, Europe, and North America, and investing into new growth sectors, notably in financial services, telecommunication, infrastructure, healthcare, and technology. All right. And among the professional accolades received were the Chairman of the Year in Malaysia by MSWG, basically Minority Shareholders Watch Group, Asian Corporate Governance in 2017. So this is kind of a chairman who really, have the thought for this. Minority shareholders, very inspiring. A value creator of Outstanding CEO Malaysia by the Age in 2016. Most Outstanding Individual Contribution to Islamic Finance by Cliff in 2011. And the Special Humanitarian Award by Mercy Malaysia in 2019. For services to the nation, Azman was awarded Panglima Setia Mahkota Medal by the King of Malaysia in 2008, which conferred him the honorary title of Tan Sri and Dato' in 2004 and Dato' Wira in 2017 by the states of Pahang and Melaka respectively. He got 2 houses, one in, I think, in Kajang and another in London. So about his info on Malay College.
Dua rumah, satu tangga, to be clear. Sorry.
Okay. Dua rumah, satu.
Madli jangan senyum.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, Azman, MCKK from 1974 until 1979, until he got offer of scholarship from LLN, Lembaga Netrik Negara, now TNB, scholarship to study accountancy in UK. So during his study, he was involved with Brentford College in rugby and chess and debating. So support of governance now from 2005, he's very instrumental in Project Sayong. And yeah, he was also captain for MCOBA rugby team, Tan Sri, from mid-1980s until 1990. Right, that's basically a short description.
President was busy in the disco. That's how I got to become captain.
Okay. Sorry, the line is not very clear. Putus sikit. Okay, that's basically about him. Knowing him is, you wait until you hear him speaking. So basically, there will be a two-part session. So the first part is basically just a normal talk about what he's doing now, and basically the second part, only then we go to the topic of discussion for today, that virtues over Paris. Okay. So Tan Sri, what have you been doing after you left Khazanah?
Yeah.
Over to you, Tan Sri.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you to pengacara majlis, Saudara Bun, I think to President Tab, to Saudara Amin. I think they, they organized this. So my honor to be here. So to those on Facebook Live as well and on Zoom, we'll try our best in spite of the physical distancing. So I think it's appropriate, Tab, if I may, we start with, since the topic is also about, start with Fatihah for Arwah Datuk Rastam Hadi, an old boy who passed away, I think, overnight. Datuk Rastam was, I'm not sure class of what year, but I think he passed away at the age of 89. I don't really know him. I know his daughter, Datin Saida, who married another old boy, Datuk Sharon, who's also the son of another old boy, Professor Mozani. But those of us who went around building institutions, the name Rastam Hadi was a real towering name. He was one of the founders of Petronas. Actually, it's a bit sad, actually. The official history of Petronas written by Datuk Paddy Bowie, I think the name Rastam Hadi hardly appeared, what I'm told. But there's another book called The Young Turks, which I read when I first started at Khazanah, and the story of Rastam Hadi is in there, how he fought very hard, a bunch of young Turks, literally, lawan dengan the multinational oil companies and how they created the PSC agreement. There's an interview by another old boy, Tan Sri Hassan American, about 10 years ago in The Age that highlighted these founding fathers. In my mind, the likes of Rastam Hadi, who I think went up to KK as an old boy, as a Form 6. I think his other alma mater is Malacca High School. So I'm Malacca born. So I visited the museum at Malacca High School because my late father was also high school. He couldn't enter MCKK because we didn't have enough money. Back in the 50s, my late father was offered a place to MCKK, tapi tak ada duit. So what do you call it? And Rastam's legacy is there lah. So I think we should start the session by Lafaz Al-Fatihah lah for arwah.
All right. Okay, guys. Al-Fatihah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, Tan Sri,
So,
what have you been doing
Yeah,
after Khazanah?
Your question. Actually, I prepared a document which I think is with the organizers, and I think they can distribute to you either live or whatever. You know, I'm quite cool about this. There's a PDF version, and the title, as you can see, a little bit of wordplay about VIRTUS, which actually I think it translates into manliness. Kan? That's what kita kan, manliness. Orang dengar apa yang dia ingat kereta, actually bukan kan. So it's about VIRTUS.
It's been uploaded to Facebook as well already. So they've had it about half an hour before the session.
You mean this document?
Yep, has been uploaded.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, good. Then I don't have to explain so much. So it's obviously about VIRTUS over virus lah. I mean, you can see the positive tone in that. And it's supposed to talk about leadership journey, but I think the first part, in response to Boon's question, what have I been up to? I think basically, you know, I left Khazanah roughly about 22 months ago. When you spend a total of 170 months, so that's 14 years and 2 months at one particular place, you kind of enjoy your time off lah. So alhamdulillah lah, I think the 22 months that I left, I've been doing several things. My plan was basically to rest, actually, not to underestimate the value of rest. So I've been doing quite a bit of that, thankfully. But I've also been carving out a couple of years of what I call a sabbatical. Later, we'll discuss a little bit about cycles and your leadership journey, so to speak.
Yep.
It's important to take a break. Like even Pep Guardiola pun ambil sabbatical kan, Pep Guardiola. So apakan lagi kita kan. So I took some time off, but rather than just lepak, which I do a little bit of, and watch football, which is a passion of mine. I'm a season ticket holder at Tottenham, so thankfully the season ended because we were playing like crap when you guys exported your manager to us. But I basically decided to do an academic sabbatical of sorts, right? So thankfully my other alma mater, my second alma mater, my first is of course MCKK. My other one is one of them at least is Cambridge. So they gave me a nice fellowship. The nice thing about visiting fellowship is you probably get the best of both worlds. As in, you tak payah mark paper, you're not a member of faculty, but you get, basically all the benefits. You can come in and out, sekati lah. That's one. But secondly, and my main interest, as Boon had highlighted, is my work is in finance, but trying to see how finance impact society or the lack of it and the real economy. As you know, this is a very topical subject. Climate change is weaved in there somewhere, etc. So alhamdulillah. So in 2019 alone, I gave about 24 lectures, which is quite a lot, right? Not just in Cambridge, but also in other universities and also back home, not to forget back home. I gave about 8-9 lectures, including in various local universities and public lectures. So alhamdulillah, that's very rewarding. But in 2020, I got a bit itchy, i.e. the start of this year. So some friends were asking me to help on commercial ventures all overseas. By the way, I decided it's best to avoid back home. I think my sense is that after holding a public office like Khazanah, nak buat business kat Malaysia susah sikit, because there's a lot of actual or perceived conflicts lah. So it's probably best avoided. And alhamdulillah, I know there's enough work overseas. So I set up a little advisory company in the UAE, partly because advising some governments and corporates from there, which is also about halfway antara London dengan KL and Kajang. That's where I stay. So the so-called dua rumah tu lah. Mazli will know that I spent the summer fulfilling an old ambition to travel around the world naik kereta api, which I did, alhamdulillah, in over 77 days and 77 trains, from Kajang to Kajang via 22 countries, 4 continents, a few trains and a few cross Atlantic on a ship, etc., etc. Landed up in, and thank you very much. You kindly hosted me before putting me on that train and from Perth to Adelaide, which was an extremely beautiful but boring lah. Dia very straight, nothing to see. Itu the Nullarbor place. So travel, of course, is a big part of that. Plus, adalah macam-macam benda lain. So anyway, all this is in the what do you call it? In the note I sent out that you can read later lah. Probably a bit boring. So,
Talk to us on Corona, Tan Sri.
This was not scheduled. Before that, this is not scheduled. I'm not supposed to be back yet. But after watching TV, Boris Johnson dok merapu, I decided to come home about 8 weeks ago with my wife, and we evacuated 2 of our children after watching the Trump show of how he was, not handling the virus lah. So alhamdulillah, I think it's been the right decision. So we're back here, and anyway, so that's yeah. So Bun, over to you.
So you are Malaysia bagus, huh? I mean, we are proud of Malaysia in any ways. Okay, Tan Sri, you also are there. I mean, from your writing, I saw that can you give a little bit of the impact of this MCO. I mean, in terms of to Malaysia and to the world, and
I think on the Corona thing, I mean, I really don't have too much to add because there's already an overdose of Corona punya literature out there again, and ramai expert there's a lot of experts these days. Everybody is some kind of a quasi epidemiologist, kan? So I don't really need to add to that. My own circumstance, as I said, and then on our Serpent batch group hari tu, when on the 1st of May, our Yang Amat Berhormat PM announced the loosening of MCO, as you know. So some people suggested to hantar video YouTube lagu 1st of May lah. Hampa tu yang kot, but you know the song by the Bee Gees, right? But someone said, actually it was me lah. I said we should be singing Staying Alive instead lah, lagu Bee Gees kan, yang the Saturday Night Fever. That one you should know, right? No. The serious point is that at my age, President, is I'm basically cautious, and essentially I just wanted to say I look at the whole COVID thing over 3 horizons. And incidentally, last night somebody sent me a speech by Martin Wolf. Those of you in the financial sector, Martin is the chief economist of the Financial Times. Worth following. He's an honest, which is quite rare actually, financial commentator. So Martin Wolf also agrees. Actually, you have to view this over 3 horizons. What I call 3 months, 3 years, and 30 years. So 3 months is about staying alive and managing the public health crisis. That one we leave it to the experts. Malaysia, I think we have our share of what do they call it? COVID idiots kan? COVID idiots. Ada juga, tapi overall, alhamdulillah kan, I think we are relatively okay. Although obviously you can't be complacent. And then the 3 years. The 3 years is really the economic challenge. From most serious economists I know are talking about the D word rather than the R word, the D rather than recession. What it basically means is depression is multi-year recession, and you know, essentially things are below trend, below everything for a long time. Even 3 years, some say maybe optimistic. I don't know. It really depends on things. It depends on you know, the science, whether it'll catch up, you know, vaccine and cure and so on and so forth. I think in this regard, it's a very challenging backdrop, but we know that your batchmate, the Yang Berhormat Finance Minister Boon, YB Zaf is a man of great stamina and resilience. We know that. And inshallah, I think with smart thinking, good effort, cool heads. I think the cool heads part is important. I think this is a problem for.
Where do you get your haircut during MCO? Your wife what? Or Maizul boleh tolong you? You go to the barber. Cut your hair.
Kalau you go to Spotify, hampir first you order benda lah tu from Lazada RM95. Dia ada from 30 something to 150. Kita ambil sederhana. Okay? So roughly paying about 2.5 months, but I have to give the kacang punya barber job. Second is you go to Spotify, you go on the Bollywood classic, first song Kush Kush Kota Hai. So main lagu tu dengan suruh bini potong. It helps if your style is not number 1 or 2 like mine. So you know, kalau glamour sikit, soft sikit. But anyway, okay. So yep. I think the 3-year horizon is very important. The country remains united lah. Obviously, the worry is, you know, the politics is not united lah, right? And even within parties, let alone between parties. So kalau unity tak ada, susah. I think it's going to be very difficult. On the other hand, you know, alhamdulillah, I think our country has gone through many crises. Daripada, I don't know, emergency dengan communist threat to a new nation was born, to May 69, right? To the me and Tap, we started work in the mid-80s recession, was really severe actually. The Asian crisis, global crisis, 1MDB crisis, macam-macam crisis. I think we came through lah. We came through somehow, in spite of sometimes our best efforts to screw it up. No lah, that's a joke. But you know, the alhamdulillah, right? So ni. But actually the last horizon of 30 years, which is, dengar dah. Sorry.
So May 18 kita tak ada crisis lagi ya? What do you think?
Sorry?
Political crisis May 18 when they start sitting.
I don't know. I don't really not qualified to comment too much on the politics, I suppose. As a citizen, of course, we are concerned. My comment was really in respect of, I think if we remain reasonably united, and then macam ni lah, you tengok the COVID crisis, the civil service as an institution under Ministry of Health, all the frontline workers kan, ramai budak kolek kan, working, is functioning, and this is an important theme lah within my submission today is actually the importance of institutions. And the individual leaders, and all of you are leaders, actually all of us are leaders, in you know, whether big, small, medium size, very big, small is secondary lah. If everybody play their role, then inshallah kan, yang kacau ni is when people forget and when banyak gaduh lah, berpecah kan, that is not good. So I hope, in fact, if anything, the emergency should bring people together, and should orang patut celik lah, is actually, that's what it is, it's a reminder, right? So 3 months, 3 years, this, you know, in many respects, I'm at the stage of my journey di mana I've been there, done that lah, and in many ways I'm more fascinated with the 30-year horizon, although in all likelihood I won't be there, right? I mean, statistically, the chances of you know, hitting 90 Tap will be great, but I don't think we statistically unlikely. But so the road to 2050, because indeed history has taught us the biggest change actually happened bila the big macam crisis or seismic shift lah. There's many books. There's one in particular which I highlighted in the what do you call it, in the note I gave, which is a Stanford professor who wrote about the great leveler Walter Scheidel. So buku ni kata the big changes actually happen only when the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse comes. So it's a bit of a depressing, morbid look at things, which is what are the four horsemen? War, pestilence, including pandemic, ecological collapse, and a revolution. All of these are particularly not very orderly. They're very disruptive and not very orderly. I don't quite buy that, but it's an interesting thought. But I think institution building is very, very important. I think that like what Rastam Hadi did, like what Hasan Marikan did, what I tried to do at Khazanah and what others, Ministry of Health dan sebagainya kan, and indeed Budak Collect are my professionals. And actually politics ought to be an institution in itself, and how that, and indeed we benefited. Let's not forget, and many old boys there in the build-up of that political base that gives stability and continuity to the country. So therefore, the 30-year horizon is what I'm interested in, actually, in the sense that my work as a kind of a sabbatical overseas, my networks overseas, I'm still in touch back home. It's just that I'm not doing commercial work. Behind the scenes, I'm helping out lah. Tak tahu lah. I mean, my people minta advice. Just that I tend to not appear these days, which is fine because that buys me some space to think and also to do other work without getting bogged down in some of the day-to-day work, which frankly I've been there, done that.
I like your old saying you check out macam, the older man must plant trees where they won't enjoy its shade or its fruits, because only then the society will progress. I mean, kalau ada orang yang unselfish macam tu, they don't think about themselves, they plant actually for others. So it's very beautiful point.
Apparently it's a Greek thing. I just didn't have time to get the exact source, but this was reminded to me. In fact, he wrote an article. Dia bukan Budak Collect, a dear friend of mine, Dr. Nong Sari. Nong was my what do you call it? My basically my chief economist dekat Khazanah. So Nong has a column in The Age. I think he actually wrote about this, that old men should plant trees. It's actually a Greek saying, that probably one of those philosopher types. But yes, that's what it is. As they say, sadly, and it shouldn't be, to those of you who are in politics, actually it should be the most noble profession. It's just that it's gotten a bad name over the years. To the corporate types, they do all this survey and they find that the number one most mistrusted occupation, this global survey, is politician. So bila dia orang present these numbers to a group of corporate people, kami gelak lah, CEO semua gelak kan. And then the presenter will say, don't laugh so hard. Not far behind are CEOs, the most mistrusted group. So, but actually, the difference between a politician and a statesman, kan, politician orang kata lah, but it's a bit skeptical, is to win the next election, whereas a statesman thinks about the next generation, which is a 30-year thing. Institutions are supposed to think about that. Now, that's what our forefathers did. Your parents and your uncles and aunties, MCKK. And the MCKK, there must have been a lot of, that went into it. Okay, guys, stop. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Tan Sri, I think we're going to the second part of your. Before that, are you comfortable if I just, and along the way, they can raise their hand, they can ask questions, at least they can participate?
Of course.
Sorry?
Sure, of course. Yeah, anytime.
So you want it to be more interactive. I think, guys, basically you can ask questions. Just raise your hand like this, or at the bottom, if put your mouse, the cursor dekat bawah ada reactions, you can put macam sini. So just signal that you want to speak. Okay, before we move on, probably Abang Samsudin, unmute yourself. You want to say a few things about what? Abang Samsudin, unmute yourself. Over to you.
All right, thank you. My name is Shamsuddin Tan Sri. I'm from Public Works Department, Tan Sri. 7, You were my junior in school.
Yeah, is Jamal Nasir still there? Jamal left already.
Yeah, he left. He's joined road care, doing maintenance in concession, road maintenance.
Quite a few of your batch. Rijal was there.
Rijal still around, but I think he's retired, Rijal. So
you loyally still there. Well done.
Okay, Tan Sri, my question. now that we have this COVID-19 pandemic, how do you see Malaysia moving forward in the global arena? Do you think kita boleh reset anything? Can we lead in any area of the global economy to surpass? Now they're talking about China surpassing US. The economy is going to be reset. What do you think? Because they've already recovered from COVID-19, and US is in the doldrums of pandemic COVID-19 there. Millions, thousands are suffering. How do you see Malaysia fitting into the new scenario?
Yeah, I think
Tan Sri, go on.
The proverbial, Samsudin, Sam, the proverbial dust got to settle first. As I said, in fact, people announce stimulus package, apa semua ni prihatin, bagus. I think it's good. I think there is a moral duty to go and help. However, let's be clear, this is just orang kata support package, and belum stimulus lagi, belum recovery lagi, because the scale is so big, right? Then, as the dust settles, I think it's a bit hazardous to predict, but I would think, for example, one major trend that I think will emerge from this, already emerging, is the diversification of supply chains. Even before COVID hit, because of the so-called trade war antara US and China, remember, modern manufacturing for the last 30, 40 years especially has been just in time, has been concentrated on to where the cost is the lowest, right? And in that process, actually, what it builds is actually a lot of cluster effect, di mana there's what is called concentration risk, terlampau banyak in one place. The world saw a bit of this when the Thai floods happened. You may recall, must have been 10 tahun ago or something like that. Kan? Because Rayong, for example, where the auto plants making parts, right? And when Fukushima meletup dekat Japan, also affected chain, and that resulted in some reconfiguration of supply chain. So Malaysia and Vietnam and Bangladesh was already beginning to benefit from that relocation. I think post-COVID, you will see these things move and change. And take Dyson, for example, they're in Johor. The Dyson, some of us were going hunting for ventilators. UK government must go back. You can expect that people will be reworking, one, diversifying supply chain. Yang kedua is essential supply chains in particular, medical supplies, food, for example, food processing dan macam ni, people will put into places yang perhaps kurang, bukan kata tak ada, there's no place to hide, not even North Korea, kurang natural disasters or man-made disasters, right? So natural disasters, for example, Malaysia, we are not bad lah, we're quite good kan, tak ada apa, at least tak ada earthquake apa semua ni, and so on. So I think that's one of our latent endowments that we should build on. The science is not yet stable on whether temperature plays a part on COVID. But if it does, and the lack of density, then you could. I think tourism is badly hit lah. But eventually, some of this may come back. Already, New Zealand, for example, is selling itself as a place whereby the density low. So a lot of starting from .com billionaires are buying their nuclear bunkers in New Zealand. So I think those kind of sectors, but certainly the technology side is a clear winner, right? Whether it's Amazon ataupun some of the online. If you don't have an online platform, you can't do anything, right? That's obvious. And I think that so-called new normal will need. Jadi, so I think there's people. I've given some ideas to some people who are in public office apa semua. So they let. I mean, this kind of work is something that we have to think carefully. I think the underlying conditions to grab those opportunities, among other things, include civil service, government, the politics, all these things. All the institutions must function must function together, kan? And this is what happened in '98, and to an extent what happened in '08, '09.
Our
Right.
SMEs like the food apa bazaar has now moved to online. A lot of our Ramadan people are now online Facebook and whatnot, and they do food delivery. So I think as a
I was reading Murtabak Pak Wan bulan puasa ni dia double last year. Ni Murtabak Pak Wan, they've gone online, right? Yang dekat
everything
Camat.
online now.
Okay.
Okay, terima kasih Abang Din and Tan Sri. Probably we have another one question kalau ada before we move on to the topic of the day. Anyone? Yes, Azam. Azam nak tahan. Over to you, Azam.
Hi, thanks, Bun.
Idris.
House. Okay. Tan Sri, I'm interested on your point of the 3 months, 3 years, and 30 years. My question is, looking at COVID-19, I think we are looking at the self-sustainability of the country itself. My question would be, is Malaysia outlook on self-sustainability of economy or reliance on international economy? We will survive. Are we going to survive in this self-sustainability, or we have to depend on international economy during this period, as you said, 3 years?
Yeah, I think Zam, this is tough because harga minyak pun jatuh, as you know, and not just jatuh, it just completely crashed, right? And we are still quite fairly reliant on oil lah. I spoke with our old boy, Din punya classmate, Tan Sri Wanzul. No, this is like perfect storm, right? So, I'm sorry?
Wanzul is from C77.
So if you could, yes. So, so to your question, boleh. So to me, I would say the 3 years, it is going to be very tough. And macam ni, countries that print money, i.e. the US, the EU to an extent, Japan to an extent, mereka boleh print money. Kita tak boleh print money. It's tough, for the developing world. If you listen to Martin Wolf last night, I think that's a very clear point actually, because what I don't know how many economists here, but the fiscal stuff, okay lah, hutang banyak, but then when people print money, generally the impact is inflation, and then you basically deflate your way out of your debt lah. This is what some people do, trick amal ni. But in our case, we have to take on that because there's a moral responsibility, and I think Boon, your classmate, I think Zaf seems to be reserving keeping his powder dry a bit lah. That 250 billion actually only about 25-30 billion is actual money lah. Fine, ini bagus. I think that's good because I think he has to take a 3-year view, and there's probably several ways. So to me, the 3 years is about kena stabilization. We have to be frugal. We have to be macam-macam lah. Kena tighten our belts. We just have to. The international part, I'm afraid, is jarang the whole world is a synchronous crisis. You know what a synchronous crisis means? That means semua down at the same time. In the 98 crisis, Asia was in crisis. Europe, the West was okay. In fact, we exported our way out of trouble, right? In the 08 crisis, the West meletup. China was the engine. Remember? In fact, they started building silly things like gila. I mean, kereta api, it was crazy. The kereta api in China is crazy. They just build, right? And then they got near. But now, everybody down. But this is interesting. I think this one. Jadi, I'm not going to sugarcoat. It's going to be tough. But to me, inshallah, but it's also a relative game. That means semua orang sakit. If you're less sakit daripada orang lain, you relatively okay. So for example, things must move around. Investments may come in. We cannot go and score on goals and shoot ourselves in the foot. We must be better than Vietnam or Indonesia or Thailand. Then baru orang datang kan, or Philippines. Which I think we can. Actually, those things are there. But syarat dia is somehow we need to to be reasonably united, and we must learn the lessons of 1MDB and all these things and not repeat them.
All right, Tan Sri, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Tan Sri, for that very detailed explanation on the sustainability of our economy. Yeah, it start off on the 18th, whether we can really be united, all our leaders. We leave it to that for politicians to discuss. We have already vote of no confidence in the Prime Minister. That's one aspect of it. But what I would like is how that you connect, to this Corona thing, to the, your user guide for our ongoing leadership journey. Because to a certain extent, actually, they also address this kind of, you're giving like generic or a template that how best that as a corporate and also as individual that we should navigate this you call it seismic pandemic or virus, whatever, and through that, and how basically we're going to the second part of our discussion. Virtues over virus, reflections in time of Corona, and that a user guide for the ongoing leadership journey. Over to you, Tan Sri.
First of all, ada benda lah ni. Was this distributed to everybody on this call? Ada.
I WhatsApp to them.
Then I tak payah.
Share on the screen lah.
You WhatsApp to them.
Yep.
Okay, screen aku tak pandai. Okay, can somebody put it on the screen? There's a way to do it. I know. Sorry.
We got it, Tan Sri. We got it, Tan Sri already.
But actually, tak payah masuk screen until there's some diagrams lah. But I can read out first. So, okay. Yep. So, thank you, President Azmi and the gang to speak about inspiring future. Okay, leadership. The topic, of course, there's a ton of material about leadership. But what I thought I'd do is to try and connect that with the kita budak kolek, but also with in the context of obviously our country and during this time of crisis, etc. Right? So I actually in my note I started by kind of rewind sikit. The last time I spoke, the last time I spoke at MCOBA was a bit more than 2 years ago, 28 March 2018, and this is just before the 14 GE, which by the way is exactly 2 years ago today, right? As we know. At that time at MCOBA, I was trying to find the right approach, how to convey a message relevant to MCOBs. But at the same time, at that time, politics tengah panas, bahang dia kuat sangat. So I was holding public office, not easy to navigate, how to steer clear of the partisan politics, but yet be true, in particular to our motto of Fiat Sapiente Virtus, right? Manliness through wisdom. Or Melayu dia apa? Manliness, Fiat Sapiente Virtus, what's the Malay translation of Fiat Sapiente Virtus?
Kebijaksanaan mutu manusia.
Kebijaksanaan.
Kebijaksanaan mutu manusia.
Okay. So it's about wisdom.
Thank you, Idris House.
Yes, Idris.
So I think I found a way to do so by asking the audience at that time to consider 3 songs that we all know by heart. Yang pertama Negaraku, of course, and to me the key essence of Negaraku lies in loyalty and service to king and country. And king and country itself di bawah naungan Tuhan, as in the line Tuhan kurniakan, kan? Rahmat bahagia Tuhan kurniakan. Okay, that's the first key takeaway from Negaraku. The second is of course our college song, of which to me the line khidmat ku berikan is something that really strikes a chord to me. I got a bit confused the other day. I mean, yang mana dulu bangga ku rasakan ke khidmat ku berikan in the line. Okay.
Bangga ku rasakan, khidmat ku berikan.
Okay, I think that's the right order. I think it's okay to be bangga as budak kolek, but let's remind ourselves sometimes it's a thin line between good pride and bad pride lah, or even arrogance. And frankly, kita budak kolek kadang we suffer from this, right? Of course, we are very proud of our school, its great history, etc., etc. But the point about bangga tu is a good kind of pride in order to land on khidmat ku berikan, which is to serve. I think this is very key. This is very key. So to me, this is the meaning of why we were sent to MCKK lah. Our batch at least that aku ingat first day prep school, they brought us into the common room in prep school and said, you all are going to be leaders. Kami tengok, we were just sleepy, right? What the hell, what the F is going on here, right? What the hell is going on here? Pukul 5 mereka hantar kami dekat tempat rugby, orang Kedah cakap main bola buah kana, rugby kan. And by evening we had to go and to prep school. That time sembahyang maghrib, I'm not sure ada tidak, that time belum kuat agama lagi, 74, right? So khidmat actually. But the last song I ended on a personal favorite, and I think it's many people's favorite. And indeed we sang this together at MCOBA at the end, which is Tanah Pusaka, right? Sungguh gemilang negeriku yang kupuja, oh Tanah Pusaka. Now, interestingly, some call it Tanah Pusaka, some call it Tanah Airku, some call it Tanah Melayu, some call it Tanah Malaysia, and so on. Or in our case, we call it Collegeku. So the different, I suppose, rendering in a way reflects our national identity issue, but that's a big topic on another day lah.
All right.
So to me, the most memorable line of this was actually the last one. Remember? How beautiful is this simpulan bahasa, is it? Biar putih tulang, jangan putih mata. My God, what a line. I think in the history of lyric writing, Bob Dylan or whoever, eat your heart out, man. This could actually be the best lyric ever written, in my view. Better to die than to live in shame. That is VIRTUS. That perfectly encapsulates VIRTUS. We must remember this. Come on, guys. So to me, this is the meaning of it. And this is what people like Rastam Hadi stood up for. He got sacked, by the way. He got sacked for standing up, etc. Ramai budak collect actually who stood up. Of course, bukan main sailang je kan. So, but these are the words of Ahmad Marikan and Wan Ahmad Kamal who penned the lyrics to this beautiful song. So it is in that context, being loyal to king and country, but it's a conditional royalty, conditional loyalty to the royalty. Frankly, and Tab, Yang Mulia, I think we had this discussion. I think this is the position of sejarah Melayu, by the way. Raja yang adil, raja disanjung, raja yang zalim, raja di apa? Sanggah, something like that.
Sanggah.
I mean, you look like a sastra type. Raja yang zalim, raja di apa? Come on. Okay, you know what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah, sanggah.
Second point, sanggah kan? Second point is about khidmat, right? Khidmat, service. Kalau hang pandai, lagi terror, lagi kena lagi banyak service. There is no escape. It's not for you. It's not for you. It's not for me. It's not for us, right? And the third one really is kena ada telok. Biar putih tulang, jangan putih mata. Courage. Stand up. Sacrifice. Whatever. That's how we try to play rugby, right? Remember? Hang suruh pukul budak style kan?
So,
So, okay. Sorry, I get excited when I talk about that. But that's a very, I think we have to start there, right? So those three songs to contextualize the leadership journey. The second point, very briefly, sorry.
Yeah, that's very beautiful. How you put your introduction to that. It's very inspiring. 3 songs and 3 points, that you take us through macam the first that you did for the kings, wherever the rulers.
But these 3 songs are songs we all know kan, kita nyanyi ya, tapi kadang
Negaraku for the love of the country, for the kings, and for the God, by the grace of God. So beautiful. And you have that, that leadership, whatever about leaders is just about serving, berhikmat. Then probably you can take a little bit of pride by, by having that you give something back to whatever. And the third one that you said, this is a bit very deep lah. Biar berputih tulang ni macam nak, really you are willing to die for your country lah. I mean, you give it everything, man, to for your country. Hey, that's very deep.
No, just again lah. I don't know how you guys for time. I'm okay for time. Sorry kalau benda ni berlagak, because there's a lot to cover. But this morning I was exchanging notes with a great guy. His one mistake was he went to RMC, didn't go to MCKK. Professor Jomo. Jomo is a friend, right? Okay. So we were talking about Rastam Hadi, right? Rastam Hadi, and I said, look, Prof, I tried to suggest to another RMC boy, Tan Sri Makno Yusof, Tan Sri Chief, Tabnya boss dulu. now Tabung Haji Chairman. I said chief because chief classmate, the late Jalil Ibrahim. Do you guys know about Jalil Ibrahim? Not your generation. You must know. Jalil Ibrahim is an accountant with the RMC who died on the BM auditor kan, on the BMF investigation. Dia kena bunuh, dia punya body kena buang dekat some banana plantation in Hong Kong. Gila.
Yeah.
Dia ni and you know very good lah. His batchmate RMC took care of his kids sampai graduate apa semua kan. I proposed at that time lah, I was in office. I said there should be an award in Jalil Ibrahim's name, you know. So the Jalil Ibrahim Prize for professionals of conscience, I call it. Because we tengok the 1NDB crisis, ramai orang takut nak cakap tau. Orang takut nak cakap. You know, the thing about it is very practical. They got, I don't know, housing loan lah, got what all kinds of things. Some got, you know, excessive lifestyles, whatever kan. But the point is to help. But it's a serious point. This is about the biar putih tulang. Is actually, if you have a medium-sized post, you have to put a medium-sized stand lah. If you got a big post, you got to put a big stand. Frankly, whatever I did or didn't do in Khazanah, alhamdulillah lah. I think I look back now, actually in fact, tap menu lah in Khazanah, and there's quite a lot of that collect that I hired, juniors lah mostly. Well, all of them practically, except for one.
Okay, Tan Sri.
We have something called the 5-minute rule. I wanted to say this is about biar putih. 5-minute rule means the only way to function in certain posts, you're 5 minutes away from getting sacked or resigning on the matter of principle. Kata tak boleh buat kerja. Anyway, tak apa pun, you prompt me. Tidak, I will go all over.
No, tak. Now I get what your point on biar putih tulang. No, I cannot mula tak nampak how I relate that sampai, you know, that you sampai basically mati lah. I mean, you said Jalil Ibrahim tu, now I get your point.
No.
Macam, you know, like
you look again the word virtus. If you were to Google, you find the translation. It means manliness, but it also means courage. It means courage. It means excellence. It's a quality the ancient Greeks lah. Tapi kalau you tengok from say the Islamic punya lenses, banyak lah. I mean, these are all the very very good quality. But as a leader, kadang you are pandai, banyak idea, banyak influence, banyak power, banyak, tapi tak ada telok, or you won't stand on principle, then everything breaks down. Tak boleh. Anyway.
No, sorry. I'm not agree. Tapi 1MDB is beyond, more than telok, Tan Sri. More than telok, you know. It's basically you can say goodbye to your profession. Probably it could be more than that, you know. You don't play, man. You know who you're messing up with, you know. I don't dare to say that. I mean, now I really understand your last point. Biar berputih tulang. It's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, that's the general case. I think so. Okay lah, we will leave it at that. So just take if there's 3 takeaways. You know, those 3 songs that we all know by heart. You know, maybe set the context. The second one, if you have to make the point that there's something, it's not just leadership, but it's a journey. And there's 7 kind of thoughts on this. The first one, again, I wouldn't, the echo. Oh, somebody's not on mute. Okay. The first one is that, you know, the famous hadith by you know, our holy prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that we are all leaders, right? So there's a famous hadith. I gave a reference, Riwayat Ibn Umar. You can Google that. So that's the first point, that, you know, this is very clear that, you know, leaders ni macam-macam leader there, but we are all leaders. Second, as we know, you go into MCKK, you already said, its DNA, its ethos about creating leaders. Okay, so you were not there by accident in that sense, right? Third, at the heart of leadership, you can view this many ways. I view it as managing amanah, actually. So if you think about it, amanah ada besar, ada kecil, and there are some principles in amanah. When I left Khazanah, I wrote a letter to my staff. It went viral. It went completely viral. Probably the most viral thing I ever wrote, because it was very topical at that time. And I quoted this surah, bukan kita nak ni, because we actually spent time for years, every Ramadan actually, trying to understand this particular verse, An-Nisa 58, which basically says, bila ada amanah, you got to give the amanah pada yang ahli, right? So at the moment, there's some, I suppose, debate about who should head GLCs, etc., right? This ahli bit is very important. In fact, Prime Minister, I thought did well when he announced his cabinet. He quoted another ayat. How do you define ahli? Kawiyun amin. That means fit and proper, right? Now whether this one is another matter lah, the latest appointment. So this part, and once the ahli comes in to become the leader, what is it about? It's about discharging justice yang adil. It's about keadilan actually. And what is keadilan? Keadilan is in a way putting things in the right place. And at that point, I cannot be a boy from Melaka, I cannot be Idris House, I cannot be even MCOBA, etc. You know, because you are discharging amanah. And that's the thin line between doing the amanah and not doing the amanah in a way. So okay, tak apa. Fourth point, we already talked about khidmat, right? And also the point about not everybody can or should be the leader lah. It's okay to be a follower. It's perfectly okay to be a follower. So I learned this on the rugby field like that. So I was captain many times, but when someone like Dogoy comes in, who's a natural born leader, your batch, Din, Abdul Rahim, Dato' Abdul Rahim. Dogoy came in, I just passed the captaincy to him. I said, Doc, hang captain, because he's a better captain than me, no issue. Then I can actually concentrate on my game even more, easier. So Dogoy is a natural leader lah. So but I became what I thought was a good follower lah. It's important to lead. Actually, you must know how to be a follower first, right? And the leader must understand the follower. So this point about some people are too obsessed. I must be leading. No, you can be a leader by being a follower. If you get what I'm trying to say, this is basically point number 4, right?
Yeah, right.
Number 5, actually, the duty to develop yourself to the best of your ability is an important amanah. We are not given the same skills, the same gifts, the same whatever, macam-macam. But whatever you have a duty to develop it as best. The other thing is that nobody is self-sufficient, and that's the point that Allah Ta'ala made us all different, such that you need to work with each other. Nobody is self-sufficient. The issue now is about the challenge of management lah. Who goes where, siapa buat apa, semua itu ni kan. Number 6, I said a lesson I've learned over the years is basically I do not volunteer, let alone menonjol to fill up leadership positions. Okay, my policy, and I learned this the hard way in my 20s, masa umur 20 tahun lebih, 25 like that, tak tahulah aku ni pak sibuk. Volunteer for this, volunteer for that, buat ini, buat itu, yang ni kira after a while cannot cope. Okay. Then you realize actually you don't look for position. You have a duty to do your best. And if the system itself is reasonably efficient and fair, they will notice you. They will pick you up. If it doesn't, there's a point about finding another curve. Okay. There's also some hadith, not strong hadith, that says that in fact, Isra Mi'raj, right? Rasulullah naik, dia nampak in hell actually orang yang banyak kayu bakar, kayu bakar. And this is the one Jibril said, this is the one yang banyak sangat responsibility, cannot discharge responsibility, take on more responsibility. I personally don't volunteer. There are exceptions. So far, the only doctor there and see that orang berdarah, of course you have to step up lah. That's different, right? So this is my, again, this some may agree, may not agree, but in my experience, it's very important. And when I was at Khazanah, generally I didn't like when people come asking for a job. I view it with a bit of skepticism. Jobs in the country that should only be given to people who don't really want the job, if you think about it, because it's an amanah. It's quite old-fashioned view. And finally, on this section is to say that the leadership is cliched, but it's also true that leadership is indeed a journey. What it means that the leader is always learning. Some call it lifelong learning. It implies, in fact, it states to learn, you have to have a certain humility, certainly a certain curiosity, and a certain hunger to improve, right? And that's the mark of both at the leader level, at an organization level. You may have heard the term called the learning organization. People write, theses about this. That organizations itself should be humble enough should be curious enough, should be hungry enough to constantly improve, because it's a journey. You're never there. That's the paradox, right? You're constantly, when you get there, what got you there to the next milestone in that sense, right? So therefore, a leader will know that dia punya ultimate legacy is actually to empower others, to build other leaders, and in doing so, to build groups of people that over time build institutions. For me, to my mind, this is the ultimate test and achievement of a leader. If you look at China, for example, the rise of China, we spoke about it earlier. I think for what it's worth, I think Deng Xiaoping will probably go down as one of the great leaders of the last 100 years. Maybe even more so than Mandela. Mandela, of course, charismatic, tapi did he actually create enough leaders and institutions? South Africa is quite screwed up today. He was very inspirational. But Deng, very quiet, is a okok, kecil badan. Created Shenzhen and then created a system and to come in the wake of the Cultural Revolution of Mao Zedong, I think was actually amazing. And of course, our founding fathers, from including old boys like Arwah Tun Razak and so on, created many of this. And okay, so I'll pause there kejap. I don't know whether you want to take questions or I can move into the next section, Bun.
Yeah.
I think we can take a
Okay, guys.
question from Facebook, Bun.
I think basically Wi-Fi on the Amok side, Sam cakap they're not very good. Mine pun also not very good actually.
Can we take a question from Facebook?
Ada tak? I tak nampak any question? Ada tak? They've been commenting but not. I don't see any question yet.
That's one here. Boeing from Razali.
Yep.
He's asking about the impact on China bullying ASEAN countries. Razali Hussein, Boeing.
Can you hear me? Boeing.
Yeah, asking about the impact of China bullying Asian in South China Seas. The impact of China
bullying
our
Southeast country in South China Sea.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, Boeing, thank you for the question. Boeing, one year my senior. Dia main flanker lah, aku main second row. No, this time complicated lah, because it is true there's a certain amount of bullying, muscle flexing by China. This kind of geopolitics, I suppose, not really my area per se, but I think I know a little bit. But at the same time, it's also a theater for the great powers to start flexing. So it's not just China, right? The 7th Fleet is there. And of course, all these other countries. So to me, it's not ideal. I think it's good Petronas is going out and trying to stake this one. I think their real fight, China's real fight, is not necessarily with the smaller countries. It's actually the great powers. Just like in the area of trade, for example, when I was at Kazana, I sat through, not just sat through, we were actively involved in 7 FTA negotiations. And while I was in public office, I didn't say this out publicly, but it's well known in policy circles. I was dead against the TPPA because it was a form of America bullying. Actually, they were not really after Malaysia, they were after China actually. Tapi kita tempias teruk kan. So when you get these great powers fighting, I think in my view, Boeing, we have to consider, betul lah, some of the action tak betul, but we have to look at the bigger game, what's going on. And it's really a great power game. And if you look historically, China was actually a tributary system with the rest of Southeast Asia. A tributary yang bayar UFTI. And the UFTI was actually a two-way system. So for example, Cheng Ho came, they bawa Hang Lipo. So because actually at that time, Malacca was a regional superpower, right? Whereas when the Americans and the Europeans actually came, it was gunboat and treaty. So this is quite a big topic between tributary system dengan treaty system. The West tends to go more legal and treaty system. Mereka nak buat macam TPPA apa semua ni. But it's actually all about power and dominance lah. Whereas China, they argue that actually in our history, we have a system of codependence with the maritime Silk Road, i.e. Southeast Asia, and with the land Silk Road, which is all the way into Central Asia, and it's actually a system of exchange, as opposed to a system of one on top of the other. Okay, now, so I don't know whether that concept, I think, is relevant, because you have to understand within that. Of course, kalau depa, I mean, if we start shooting, then, you know, long story lah. I think so the people got to play all this within those overall framework lah. So for example, you know, part of our recovery, we're gonna need China lah. But what kind of China, right? We don't want the kind of, they export their corruption and the ECRL, for example. That's not the kind of China we want. No, on the other hand, you know, I work with Alibaba. You know, we invested in Alibaba. We brought them, diorang datang lah, the digital free trade zone, apa semua ni kan. So it's there to be shared.
Tan Sri, ada Sam tanya, Sam Ahmad, dia tanya how MCOBs can play our part to help the nation to, you know, get out from this COVID-19 whatever pandemic disaster.
Yeah, I mean I don't know. As I said, I'm not in public office anymore, so I'm a normal citizen in that sense. Of course, many friends are still in public office, and I help where I can, but I'm trying to think through the long term in a way, in many ways. I think, I don't know, offhand, I would say the first thing is, if we can, of course, if we can help, great. But if we can't, then don't make problem lah. You cannot be part of the solution. The first point, do no harm kan. So kadang, frankly, there's a lot of negativity yang need through this channel, that channel. I think we should not add to that negativity. That's my own personal view. I think whatever channel that you have, that you're doing, and now you can see ramai orang buat through NGO channel, tolong not even B40, right? B20, B10 or whatever, with all the macam-macam orang buat lah, kan? I think that there are many ways to contribute, but you know, a basic principle is perhaps before we do good, we shouldn't do any harm lah. We shouldn't add to orang kata keruhkan lagi keadaan. Because I'm a bit worried about that actually. The formation of, as I said, the unity and coherence is very important. Without that, and in a way that MCOBA is the network because we're supposed to cut across, you know, political lines, etc. Right? And I think it's important. And what do we stand for? We stand for our common experience is, you know, Fiat Sapiente, VIRTUS, and all that, right? So I'm sorry.
Anything that?
Hidup Malaysia. I think there's a lot of things that we need to do, not only for Malaysia, but humanity. I think there's a lot of what we're trying to do to this IFL is also bring a lot of that together. So we're trying not to be political, but definitely we're trying to get all the views together as well. I think what you said just now, Amo, in terms of hikmat too, is very clear, very, very good. That without collect, at the end of the day, all we want to do is make the life a better place for all of us. In fact, what Boon actually did just before the last GE, we got all the political guys onto one stage, and we actually talked. And when they actually spoke,
wow. Okay,
semuanya sama. Actually, just want to make Malaysia a better place. Tapi they were all flying different flags, having different icons, you know. But at the end of the day, if you put it up, semua nak better Malaysia anyway. So I totally agree with you that kita tak boleh keruhkan air itulah. You know, that's really a lot of that's happening at the moment, and hopefully MCOBs are not in that at the moment. So that's great. And there's a lot of even people on this chat group that's done a lot of that work from Northern Territories. Northern Sawai just did with Red Crescent recently, and that's really good. So a lot of these things, a lot of MCOBs are actually doing this as well, and I like to acknowledge that too.
Hasnul nak cakap sikit. Hasnul, over to you. You want to add something, Hasnul?
Right.
Yeah, go on.
Assalamualaikum, Tan Sri. Hasnul from Kulim, Kedah, yeah? All right, Sawai C90.
Right.
All right. So let me put you into a scenario. Let's say if we go back to Malaysia politics, yeah. So let's say if you are the Prime Minister of Malaysia, Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin, and basically now you are juggling with all these powers left and right and so on. What kind of management enrollment that you're looking into? Are you looking into meritocracy, or are you going to look into patronage type? Because I know what I feel this last few days, we are hearing a lot of announcements of these old horses coming back and so on and so on. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah,
Yes, Tan Sri, you are the Prime Minister now.
Apa nama? Do you know Indonesia? They had a program called Who Wants to Be President? Macam so you can write in and then you masuk, and then for 1 hour you jadi president. So macam lah call datang. It's very entertaining. I enjoyed that. I don't know whether they will work in Malaysia. No, I think Arsenal that's a very loaded question. I would say macam ni lah, I try to jawab macam ni kan. Kita, at least I stayed away. I mean, you can't escape politics. The politics affects everything. And as I said, to be fair, actually politics should be a very noble profession, but it's been given a bad name, right? So I suppose politics is what? It's basically known as the art of being in power, right? In order to khidmat lah kot. I suppose that's the justification. What is a statesman? A statesman, as I said, they think about the next generation, therefore it's about khidmat. But how do you khidmat about next generation when you can't survive the next 3 months or 3 years? So I guess in there lies the dilemma. So when hampa semua, I don't know how any of you in politics, but I suppose if people like here or on Facebook don't enter politics, then, you know, by definition, cakap je lah. Orang lain yang masuk bidang politik, etc. Right? I think the issue about politicians and GLC is actually about, sure, it can be viewed with a patronage lens, but it should also be viewed from an institutional lens. I've made the point, again, I just don't, I mean, among friends and so on, and even with chief editors, etc., just that, I malah nak appear at the moment. I said, look, it doesn't mean the politicians will not make good chairman or GLC, etc. In fact, one of the best chairman that I know, and I work on his board, and he was an ex-politician, Tan Sri Leo Mogi, a very good chairman kat Tenaga, extremely good chairman, very wise man. Dia boleh nampak collision course of views 3-4 moves ahead, and he will break it up. Pandai, very, I learned a lot from him. You know, so it's because of the structural conflict. That's why under Bafia, a politician cannot, you know, chair or be on the board of a bank, because dia, of course, they kena serve their constituency, itu tugas dia, amanah dia. But the bank or the GLC, you know, sometimes it may align, but a lot of time it may not align, right? And therein lies, so it's not good for anyone, including for the politicians. So this is the basic point. So is it about merit? So I suppose he has to, so the issue is balance. How do you balance between staying in power, but yet, you know, being true and meritocratic or just and fair as much as you can? That susah nak jawab lah kan, because there's so many factors. You know, and then there are degrees of culpability lah, I suppose. Some do because they need for the party, some do for their own pockets, which is not right, right? Obviously. Long story lah, cerita governance.
Ada komen, so you jadi Prime Minister, masuk politics.
No lah, tap nose lah, I won't enter lah. Full stop. Yeah. Okay, can I move to, so that I can just run through this?
Okay, we try to focus the discussion on leadership.
So having established those 7 points about what is leadership, and before that to talk about the 3 songs to contextualize the leadership journey, I thought there's many ways to do this, but I thought I will just give you 3 kind of tools lah for future leaders or indeed current leaders, you know, of how to think about this lah. And there's no right or wrong answer. You have to figure out yourself. Some of this may resonate more with you, some may not resonate, some, you know, I'm just sharing what I have, right? So one is to think about kalau betul journey. So journey ini kena ada milestone lah. So I talk about cycles, right? In fact, Tab, I don't know if you remember that. We were probably in our early 30s as young parents. The location was actually MCOBA. It was a Ramadan evening, and the guest speaker was Datuk Dr. Fadilah Kamsa, another old boy, right? So Datuk Fadila, we asked as young parents, Datuk, teach us about how to be good parents, actually. That was the topic. So he gave a talk, and many of you know Datuk Fadila, very entertaining, very, very wise, knowledgeable man. And what I really recall, it struck me was dia kata dia bagi this 7-year cycle thing, right? 7 tahun, 0 to 7, dia kata budak-budak ni, you kena give them a lot of love, kasih sayang. Without that kasih sayang, dia tak ada secure base, right? That makes sense, right? Kalau you tengok cerita Netflix yang mana psycho killer ni semua is because they had a bad childhood, that kind of thing, right? So that obviously makes sense. But dia kata the second cycle, the second 7 year, can you show the diagram ni tadi? Bawah ni ada diagram, bawah sikit lagi. Bawah lagi. Okay, sorry ya, aku kena, I don't have a PowerPoint support now. I had to sketch this myself. So the first cycle, there's 10 aku taruh ni lah, because up to 70 years, right? Me and Tab, we are now in our 9th cycle. Anything beyond 10, actually anything beyond 9, dah kira bonus lah. Remember, Nabi wafat at 63. Nabi Muhammad wafat at 63. Remember this. So Datuk Fadila talk about 1 to 3, which was the infant, become the child, become the teenage, right? So first you need love, tapi kalau love aja tak ada disiplin, jadi manja lah, tak boleh. So not a coincidence, for example, budak diarahkan start semayang umur 7 tahun, right? 7 years old, they're supposed to start praying, discipline, work ethic a bit, buat homework, etc., right? When 0 to 7, a lot of studies have shown this is the formation of the psychological makeup of the child and later the adult. Doesn't change. I didn't have time to talk about it. There's a Harvard guy called McClellan. The work that he did, he's a psychologist, became the Hay Group. And if you do this profiling by Hay Group, he will say, I know my profile is a Nike. A Nike means I got quite high achievement orientation, very high power orientation. Power doesn't mean gila power, the power means impact. Very low affiliation. What it means is that, and Tab knows this, if I think this is wrong, I don't give a shit lah. Orang suka tak suka, I will just do lah. So that's called a Nike, and so on. So that makeup was already done in your first 6-7 years, and some say even earlier, in the womb of the mother even. Okay, then the third one is the teenage years, and this is our MCKK years. These are very formative years, where to me it's about explore. You need to explore, you need to experiment, you need to learn. And sometimes itulah kena DC, kena kotan, kena macam-macam lah. But you need to explore. Asalkan jangan jahat. Nakal, you have to be nakal lah, because you're constantly pushing the boundary, in my view. I think if you don't explore, I don't think you will need. And this is the beginning to it. So anyway, so Datuk Fadila stopped at 1 to 3. Of course, he probably had been prompted, he can talk more. But the topic was raising being parent lah. So for example, dia kata by the time the third cycle, you kena treat macam kawan. Bukan budak-budak tu dah besar kan. Macam our children now dah besar. If they're not buddy, then they will go into their own world, etc. So I kind of went back and thought about this, and this would have been more than 20, 30 years ago even. And I started to think about, okay, what next, right? So 7-year cycle. And it so happened later when I had to do a lot of staff review, I have to mentor and still do a lot of people. I use this as a kind of cycle in my own children actually. So for example, the fourth one, first job. Our son, our only son, just graduated, dapat his first job. Then they start compare tau. Dia punya member dapat gaji lebih. Dia kata, don't worry too much about gaji. Most important is, are you going to learn a lot in this job? Is it an honest working place? Are you going to, pick up some good habits, right? That's the fourth cycle. By the time you hit the fifth cycle, which by that time you would have had more than 10 years of working, in my view, if you want to be a leader, you have to be an emerging leader by then. So that means in your early 30s, the way I defined him, you got to be the go-to guy on something. You got to be a specialist on something. In my case, it so happened I became an analyst and I was a specialist on energy companies, Tenaga, Petronas. It helped lah. The CEO semua budak kolek kan. So I had access. I must say, Tajuddin Ali, Hassan Marikan semua tak. And then the conglomerates, right? Pun ramai budak collect. Kelly, Tan Sri Alin Saad dan sebagainya, right? So I made my mark there, and Malaysia was a big emerging market. People came from all over the world. I'm the go-to guy. Whether you agree with me or you don't agree with me, you got to see me. Okay? They had to see me because they had to hear my view, because you are the go-to guy on that subject. So happened. I found my niche lah, in short, kan. So whatever it is, if you're a scientist, you're an engineer, you have to create your own niche. By the time, roughly, all this roughly by the way, some people sooner, later, but roughly. In the corporate world, there's a saying, if you haven't made it by the time you're 40, you probably won't make it, which I don't quite agree, actually. I don't quite buy that. But some people, this is a general kind of saying, which means by the time you are the sixth chevron tadi, the sixth cycle, you must be dah nampak dah you punya leadership apa semua ni. Some people, as we know, kadang dia macam shooting star lah, dia naik cepat sangat and then dia jatuh, etc. kan. Especially if they fall prey to integrity issue, macam-macam issue kan. But now along the way, for example, how do you upgrade yourself? Which is the second point about the triangle lah, 3 A's. I tak payah cakap banyak lah. So the first base is your aptitude, kena ada. How far you go up is your attitude. Later when you get up there, whatever that means, it's a lot about managing so-called altitude lah. But so for example, the aptitude part, my own little journey, if I may, now I decided I needed to supplement this, buat things like CFA. Kalau nak masuk, you come from 10 years in tenaga, suddenly you want to go into the hurly-burly world of investment banking, investment research, you need something lah. And that something happens di CFA, kena buat lah, belajar apa semua ni kan. Which boleh buat, if you budak collect, everybody has the attitude, whether you have the attitude and the application to do it, right? And so on. Then I call it the leadership prime time 1, prime time 2, 42, 49. So happened I became MD Khazanah at 43, which is relatively young, I suppose. But you know, at 42 in the 7th kind of cycle, you still have a lot of energy. Not that you don't now, but you know, you have more energy then. But you probably don't have enough maturity. Emotionally, you're not there yet lah. So you know, goyang sikit kadang. But normal, you're learning. Okay, this is normal. You need mentors, you need macam-macam. And then number 7, prime time 2, as I call it, 49. And so happened just after that. And then I don't know, now I'm at number 9. I'm still moving through what I think you move from being a leader to being a steward lah. A steward is slightly different. Steward macam ni lah. As I said, the 3-year horizon, tak apalah bagi orang lain buat. Kita relax dulu, kita mentor, kita fikir. And sessions like this, if you guys, you know, whatever battle scars that we went through, we can share a bit, mana yang boleh. But you can see it's a continuous journey. It's a journey of upgrade. It's a journey of certain things are a given. Certain principles macam integrity, obviously hopefully you pick up humility and khidmat and so on and so forth. So it's a framework, as I said. I mean, you mentioned that, you know, this, maybe you want to comment, resonated somewhat. It certainly helped me to think and plan lah. Kalau you baca surah Yusuf pun dia go into 7-year cycles kan. So anyway.
Yes, that's it. This resonated a lot with me when I first read it. So this particular diagram really maps out not just because I think a lot of people don't really see the future, right? What's next, right? It seems blurry. Am I really gonna get there? You know, I'm doing my best, but I don't see where I'm going. This charts it out.
Links to the point about curves, which I want to make. So these are tools. So I'm giving this tool that I'm just sharing, which I use quite a lot in my own planning, in my own thinking at least. Again, like all tools, ada tempat you nak guna, ada tempat you tak usah guna. But I also use it to have a discussion with my direct reports, to encourage them to think that it's a journey. It's a journey, and you have to think long term. Now, related to that is in my note, I also said it's also a tool that actually when you put it down on paper, it gives a certain time perspective and it lends itself to long-term planning, which arguably is a critical factor in succeeding on any journey. For any journey, you kena ada map, you kena ada understanding, you know, aku nak pergi daripada Kajang nak pergi Kuala Kangsar via via Ipoh kan, for example kan. So you must need a map roughly and what nak berhenti kat Tanjung Malim ke dekat mana ke. You kind of need that, right? And in that regard, the notion of time horizon is something it's not even abstract actually. You think about it, and the insight that I got was this actually. My first encounter, actually probably not the first, our teacher in Brighton, Mr. Cohen, was probably Jewish, but I didn't know it at that time. But this is the first guy that was like, he said, I'm Jewish. I tumpang kereta dia, I dengan MCOBA, our batchmate. We travel from Bloomington, Indiana to New York. Hitch a ride ni bukan hitch kat luar lah. We they put this thing on the bulletin board. Dia kata anybody wants a ride to, he wanted to go to Boston. Kami dekat ni, it's about 1,000 miles, right? So kami tumpang lah naik dia. And the guy, you are like a day and a half in a car with this guy, and he basically said, I'm Jewish. I said, okay, I've never met a Jewish guy properly before. But he said, the moment I was born, my family had a 100-year plan for me. I went like, wow, holy shit. I mean, 100-year plan. You boleh bayang tak? That means this is probably beyond him. That's why they plan in 3 generations, anak dia jadi congressman, something like that. I mean, this is disgusting lah actually. Lah, depa ni terlampau kiasu kan. But it actually teaches you something about planning actually. And many migrant communities do this. But I think we need to think like this, in my view, because it's a plan, right? At the other end of the spectrum, another batchmate, Adan Said, our batch, this is in the 98 crisis. So he was working with drug addicts. And he told me that drug addict punya time horizon, yang orang ni 100 tahun, is the next fix. Kat mana dia boleh dapat the next fix? That is the drug addict punya ni. So macam mana nak plan? Mana ada planning? Nothing. Of course, the answer we are probably somewhere in between. But this is the point about journey and time, and to think through. You will find your own answers lah. I think there'll be many thoughts and insight.
Tashi, I have a question. Otot here, batch 2006, currently with Telecom, TM.
Right.
I'm at the number 4 and 5, actually like low 5, in fact, 31 years old. So I was just wondering, at that point in time, between 4 and 5, between the years of 21 years old to 35, have you ever felt lost in your journey lah? Because I think to jump from ada ACCA to have a CFA midpoint, usually people will do these qualifications early in their career lah, probably within 8 years kan. So have you ever felt lost? And is there, looks like there's a change from being an accountant to pure finance guy.
Yep.
So to speak, yeah. So
what's your background, Otot? Are you?
I'm a qualified accountant.
Accountant.
ICAA, Chartered Accountant Australia.
Well, you have a chairman who's a chartered accountant lah coming in.
Yeah, baru dapat.
No, Baki is a good friend. No, you're right. Did I feel lost? Yes, many times. Because I was a LLM scholar, that means duduk ni lah, kind of handcuff kan. On the other hand, tak tahulah. So during this time, we spend a lot of time playing rugby, ikut tab pergi disco. Sorry. So kalau injured, we're not sure. Is it dislocated or discolated? Never mind. That joke. So yeah, I think, but actually my luck in a way, because Tenaga LLN became the largest listed company in Malaysia and one of the largest among emerging market in the world, right? So that's when, in fact, I never heard of the CFA thing, right? Until I started meeting analysts, etc., etc. On the other hand, I think you made your own luck lah. So there was a period actually during this time, my late father passed away. I went through a very difficult period personally. I kind of tak tahu lah this whole episode. I pergi naik haji suddenly, and to naik haji kena macam-macam lah. Is it cold turkey or wild turkey? Cold turkey, sorry. Wild turkey lain. Sorry, these are private jokes. Then and so on, and then I literally met my future in-laws in Mecca, etc., got married, and then somehow, then worked very hard lah. I think this is the ni kan. Betul lah, betul. I think this was a very tough period for me personally. But alhamdulillah lah. And actually within 10 years of leaving Khazanah, I came back, leaving Tenaga. which actually my big boss at that time, later I'll talk about, Ania Rope encouraged me to go and find another curve. And entering the industry at a relatively late age. I worked like crazy, man, for 1 year, bagai nak rak, you know, in UBS, etc. One, you are older than usual. Two, frankly, you're Malay lah. But it's okay, you take that as a challenge. Depa bukan pandai sangat pun. You know? And you know, within 3-4 years, I was head of research and winning awards regionally everywhere lah. Boleh buat, bukan tak boleh buat. Buat CFA. I mean, it's all there, latent somewhere, right? So, yes, but frankly, there were other colleagues, very smart people in LLN Tenaga, who actually is what you want lah. They lead very balanced life. Pukul 5 mereka pergi main tenis, pukul 7 mereka pergi masjid. Anak ni, and then maybe they do MBA on the side. Okay juga, it's not, itu masing-masing punya ni. That's, as I said, masing-masing punya whatever your preferences, right? But certainly, my point is that actively looking for me, I felt that, you know, surely I was created to do something else lah, not just drift along lah. I think at the back there somewhere that, you know, conversation that we had a long time from MCKK, all. Had I not gone to MCK, maybe I would not have gotten that spark, because kat collect you are exposed to all this kan, about this khidmat lah, pos money, all these things, and then all the stories of the old boys. So these inspire you, and then you find your way, out, and then you chart your own way. And alhamdulillah lah, actually to be honest, not much help lah. This one not much help. Semua buat sendiri kan, CFA apa semua ni semua. Later when I mean, okay. Then later another transition. I was already head of research, being very well paid in the millions even at Solomon. I said, F it, cukup. I have enough of this. I don't want to do this anymore. And I gave them 1 year's notice, and then I applied. Alhamdulillah dapat masuk Cambridge. And actually I didn't know what the hell I was going to do next, but I knew this curve needed changing lah, which is the point later, right? So maybe Boon, if I may, I don't know whether that answers a little bit.
I think that's very well answered, and I think they touch also on your triangle as well. I mean that you have to build.
Yes, I think so. The triangle dah cover lagi, and then the curve, right? So the curve, okay. Concept dia macam ni tau. If you believe, and you must believe, we must believe. Quran kata Allah Taala has not created anything in vain. Allah Ta'ala ciptakan benda tak ada yang sia-sia kan. Everything ada purpose. Okay? Lagi pula manusia. Even the devil got purpose. Kerja devil kacau kita lah. That kind of thing. Even the pig has a purpose. I don't know what exactly the purpose, but ada purpose. Everything ada purpose, right? It's just that we're not clever enough to figure out everything. So there must be somewhere out there the cure for COVID-19. We haven't quite figured out. So nothing is created in vain. If you believe in this verse, and there are several verses, I gave a few quotes there, a few references there. Then, let alone the best of creation, manusia, kita, we are all created for a purpose lah. Apa purpose tu is, so there must be that belief that you are special. Everybody is special in a particular way, right? The tragedy is many people go through life not figuring out what is their special way, actually, if you think about it. I'm not saying I found it, but we're still searching lah. Sekarang I'm trying to figure out what next lah kan, frankly kan. But insyaAllah lah, that's part of the excitement, right? So, if you believe in those verses, that means don't ever give up, and you have to find this curve of yours, actually. The example I gave was that after 10 tahun, okay, I serve my time and then suddenly this UBS quadruple my salary. Mana kita tahu? We were paid very low lah because tenaga was very hierarchical. I went to see Ani Arwah. Ani said, Tan Sri Ani Arwah, great man, said, you should go and find a new curve. He used the term, and I'm using this term in his honor, actually, finding this curve. So you will know whether you are fulfilling your journey. It takes a bit of risk sometimes to change course or to find new curves, of course. And sometimes it's a trap. So when I was at Khazanah, I sometimes feared that, yeah, we were reasonably comfortable and they were good, very good people I hired. Tapi kadang if they get too comfortable, sayang. It's actually you should be measuring what they are not becoming. Maybe I'm holding back somebody who could become a big, you know, a .com technology entrepreneur, for example, right? They should go out. So I actively chased out some old boys actually. Kata Ahmad Shaizam, I chased him out. Dr. Farid, I chased him out. So I said, keluar, Badak. Where's Badak? Badak is still there, but never mind. And so on, you know, because I felt that when the curve start flattening, they just posting along, not being challenged. That's not good lah. I think that's not good. So that's the curve thing. So just to close, I give 3 more things about Sabar and Syukur lah. So Kipling punya famous poem, you know this thing about, you know, kan dia punya poem If tu, very famous poem. If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those 2 imposters just the same. I think that poem ends with, you will be a man, my son, right? That kind of thing, remember? So this one actually, then it's actually tak boleh excited sangat lah both ways. So if you're disappointed, don't be too disappointed. If you're overjoyed, don't be too overjoyed lah. Dia kena steady lah. I think this is a very important, to me lah, very important principle. Kalau main bola pun macam tu kan. So if you just caught that you're most vulnerable, right? That kind of thing. So you must be careful. Second is finding balance, which again lah, I won't make. And the final one is about nasihat and about how you need to somehow go on this journey berjamaah lah, together. I mean, so you have to surround yourself with, you know, friends, colleagues, etc. lah. So I'll stop there. I'm also mindful it's actually 4 o'clock plus. Boon, I'm okay, but you know, I'll sit back to you.
Thank you, Tan Sri, for taking us. I thought you are okay. Kalau if you go through the notes, there are 7 points, 7 journeys, which is to me very, very, very insightful. Then I think Tan Sri bagi 3 metaphors. Basically, that's a tool. Kalau tengok tadi yang the first whatever, I think there is metaphors to circles. The 10 step yang I think Tan Sri dah kembang, extrapolate daripada Fadlah Kamsa tu. And then second, you got the triangle, the aptitude and the attitude. Tan Sri, I pernah nampak ada satu macam Harvard studies, dia kata attitude make up about 85%, and aptitude about 15%. Is it true, or how is it?
I don't know about the percent, but you know, that sounds about right in the sense that the aptitude actually nowadays ramai orang ada degree kan, macam-macam degree ada. And you know budak college semua aptitude sure ada. People yang ada degree sure ada aptitude. The issue is, you need to get in. That gets you into the door lah, so to speak. How far you go inside that building, honestly, and Tap knows this, and we all know this, really depends on your attitude lah. Setengah orang terlampau pandai, cannot work with people, problem kan. So you won't go very far lah, right? Or worse, yang anti-social, yang main politics or corporate politics lah, that kind of not good. Or worse, integrity issues, etc. But I added the third one, Boon, which is managing altitude.
Yeah.
And this one ramai fail, actually not easy. Some power gets to the head, macam-macam lah. I mean, I'm reminding myself all the time, and
That's right. Is it triangle? Is it yours?
No, the triangle is this thing. You can Google. It's called the impossible triangle. It's a mathematician by the name of Penrose. Dia yang sengaja lah. I could have put a normal triangle, but this is more interesting to say that it is in some ways difficult to balance this thing, but actually it can be done.
So Penrose, the altitude tu memang Penrose cakap. I mean, to me the sampai ke altitude tu memang, I mean, I tak sampai lagi kat atas lah. But what I can resonate is kalau macam even ada orang, sorry lah, macam setengah tu macam say orang alim, dia rasa dia dah, that you think that you are better, superior than other people, you look down on people. So this kind of thing that I think, sorry?
Yeah, you're right. I think that's the worst lah. If you that means you don't get it lah. If you kind of, that's why I say I put when you get there in an exclamation mark, because you actually never really get there. It's a paradox.
Betul. I mean,
yeah.
One of the things macam I pernah, when I was in UK sekejap, ada orang kata bila, masa tu Tony Blair, when I was there, dia boleh dengar, budak kindergarten macam dia kata don't let the dog plays, around the padang, so they will poo, kacau. I mean, that somebody that high can listen to somebody low. That really projects a very positive image to people
Well,
watching.
the problem is Blair went up with a lot of attitude, but I don't think he handled altitude well.
Just on that point, I mean, I'm trying to say some people who can really, itu bukan senang. I mean, kita orang kat bawah kita boleh cakap. Once you are there, only that you know. It's the test is very tough.
It's very hard. It
Yeah.
is hard. It is hard. But that's why you must kind of give it to those yang betul-betul ahli, as I said. And benda ni again lah, you have to take it as a mosaic, as a composite of these are tools, and then you got to somehow configure it according to what makes sense to you. I'm just throwing out some building blocks, if I can call it that I found useful, that for you to think lah and consider. So for example, as I said, maybe a triangle is not the right way to look at it. Maybe pasal apa nak buat triangle seolah-olah you must always nak mencakar, mendaki apa semua ni kan. Maybe a better this one is a river flowing, for example. I don't know. You can change that metaphor. It's a challenge that.
That's fine.
Tinggal the contemporary world is about this lah. People want to climb the corporate ladder. People want power. People want wealth. People want knowledge. But to me, I contextualize this dalam dari segi amanah lah. Sometimes you are asked to manage amanah, which you need the altitude in order to organize things lah. Nak nampak, nak kat mana ni semua. But you must not have altitude sickness. Tak boleh. Because the air is thin up there. I had the occasion to speak to anak Sherpa Tenzing. Nama dia Norgay Tenzing in Nepal. Sherpa Tenzing is the guy who went up Everest with the Mat Salleh. Kan? He probably went up first before the Mat Salleh. Never mind. So Norgay Tenzing, I met him dekat Kathmandu at dinner at an occasion. Dia kata apa tau, interesting. He's gone up Everest 4 kali. Dia kata most of the accidents happen not climbing up. Actually, in once you're up there and then going down. You know why? Orang sampai atas dia ingat dah ni dah, dia lupa, dia sleep, mati. I thought that was interesting. And of course, the oxygen, etc. is there. But so prepare yourself for that. And it's something you cannot run away. If you're meant to go up there, you have to go up there. You cannot run away. Hang budak kolek. Nabi Yunus kena marah kan? Allah Ta'ala marah, dia cabut lagi masuk dalam perut ikan paus. You cannot run away. If it's meant to be on it. But personally, I don't tonjol. Because
Jangan menonjol lah. Okay, thanks, Tan Sri. I'll open the floor to everyone. I think, how long can we have, boss?
What time is Asar lah? We stop at Asar. I think we stop Asar berapa? 4:30.
Can we start at 4:30?
4:30 lah. Stop.
Okay. Quick question.
Can.
Just quick question bagi semua orang. Ada Chan yang tak boleh tidur kalau tak tanya Tan Sri, please. And go ahead.
Just wondering, how do you, because when you join, I had a luxury of working with sekejap je lah dengan Dr. Farid Sani, your right hand man. So just wondering, because he was part of your early team dekat Khazanah dulu kan. So there were the perceived perception of favoritism, dekat Khazanah ramai budak collect and then spread their wings go to
all on merit.
So apa dia? Sorry?
All on merit.
All on merit. So but it's still there. Is the perception is still there, and then sometimes when the others, for example budak VI ke apa, they took the helm and then macam kau boleh collect ni macam ada some sort of perception that tak apa aku bagi kat budak VI pula lah. Korang dah.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Lagi budak collect lagi susah, lagi kawan lagi susah.
Betul.
How do you navigate that perception?
Yeah, I think in fact the first two of my special officers were budak collect Ahmad Shaizam and Dr. Farid. So they were called SOA, Ahmad Shaizam. So Dr. Farid kata I must be SOB then. I said, okay lah, you are. So those of you who know Farid's character. But actually the first hire I had was not a budak collect, was a TKC girl, my CFO, Shanas, budak TKC. No, I think this is potentially, a sensitive subject as the way you put it. But yeah, I think Tab knows. Tab joined the Khazanah group last time. I didn't so-called interview, of course I know that. Many, they had to go through even more hoops. And I make no apologies for that. I'm sorry, because kita pegang amanah kan. I think these are the stuff that you have to cross. And over time, actually people accept that this not due to any, and not just collect, right? Because if you're running a national institution, then you have to think about the racial mix, you have to think about gender mix, you have to think about it. So it's about trying to be as best as you can to be adil in discharging your amanah. In the personal side, if it's my own money, my own whatever, itu lain cerita lah. That one is mine kan. But if it's not mine, then I have to try your best to do that. And
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I just give to open to the others, especially the young one. Kiki, you want to say anything? The youngest one so far.
Kiki, okay.
Bash.
Which
you know,
batch?
Ari, say something, come on.
That's Rizky, Kiki here from class of 13.
Wow.
Official name is Rizky.
Rizky, well done.
Yeah. Okay. I don't have much of a question, but still looking into kita punya situation right now with the COVID-19, and you have mentioned things about economic depression and recession, and what I would like to ask you lah is how we can navigate through this, especially for the youngsters, especially macam I as a fresh graduate, we are trying to find our jobs. I mean, there are some of us that already landed some jobs lah, alhamdulillah for that. But being in a situation dekat Malaysia ni yang kita tak ada, kita panggil apa, is a volatile world lah kan. And this economic depression punya times, we are struggling lah. And I think it's important for us to know how do we navigate. It's not just budak kolek saja. It affects a whole age group lah. There's a whole generation. So I would like to ask you how we would be able to lead or even navigate through this situation.
If I may ask, Kiki, what is your field? What did you graduate in?
I just recently graduated in petroleum geoscience. Previously I was a Petronas scholar.
Right.
And alhamdulillah I landed a placement already lah in Petronas.
Right. So you're among the more lucky ones in that sense, right?
Alhamdulillah, I got hired just a few months before COVID, so
those
very lucky.
Petronas scholars who came after you, tak sure dapat kerja.
Who came after me, there were some yang dapat, and I think most of us dapat lah. But for our juniors, for now I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I mean I don't have easy answer, Kiki. So as I said, I wish I am wrong. I'd be very, very happy to be wrong that the prognosis of the economic outlook is not great. There's no, shouldn't sugarcoat kan. Because you tengoklah all the numbers. Of course, if somehow we find a vaccine in the next 2-3 months, then yeah, things could change dramatically. The stock market will probably jump a lot, etc. Kan? But all the so-called experts are saying 12-18 months at least. And by which time, the kind of shutdown in many supply chains will mean, and then petroleum is going through some very big structural things. What I can say is that I started work in the mid-80s, in 83, 84, that one around the same time. When we came back, the recession of the mid-80s was actually very severe. Probably more severe than the 98 crisis, which was more of a financial crisis rather than, which became an economic crisis lah. But actually 85, 86 was really bad. So some of us yang ada kerja, macam saya kerja lembaga elektrik negara as a scholar, ada lah kerja. Not very, exciting work, but ada kerja kan. Gaji very low, very hierarchical, etc. There were others who went into, like Dane will know, yang went into JKR government pun okay kan. But there were also others who were engineers terpaksa jual ayam percik dekat bangsa. Some of them became millionaires later. You know, so you can't really say. I think the constant thing is actually, so if for example, I would ask you are a petroleum geoscience, big field, but you know, should you be looking at, say, green energy instead of fossil fuel? You know, what can you do to upgrade yourself in this particular area and start aligning, reading, and you know, positioning yourself? You got a whole life and career ahead of you. Maybe that is already happening, and so maybe what you're seeing now is not cyclical in the oil market, oil and gas. It's actually structural. If you Google, there's a Stanford professor who wrote this report about 1 or 2 years ago, calling for $20 oil. That time oil was $70 to $70 good. People laugh at him, but it was actually a very interesting report. I kept a copy somewhere. I think can give my number if I get the report, because it forces you to think what the transport sector is going to do. You know, for example, in that report, bila self-driving cars happen, then the amount of cars you actually need is less, and therefore consumption is less, and of course the whole climate change movement, etc., etc. It's about anticipating new trends. I think, if I may, this is the example I know the most. Is my own journey. When I came back from UK, ACCA freshly minted, tapi tak boleh kerja kat luar lah. Actually boleh lah, tapi kena bayar hutang macam tap join and then went back and paid, right? In LLN, there's a hierarchy. Engineers on top, engineer bawah sikit, bawah banyak lah, accountant, bawah accountant, administrator, bawah administrator, paling bawah system analyst yang buat komputer ni. So I look at the job prospects of the job as an accountant. While I'm supposed to be on top, the job was very boring. You know, you got to sign stores ledger punya requisitions. So I was at that time the only fellow who ever volunteered to go down to the computer department. So I was around your age. I kata, F it, man, I'm not going to learn anything. This is so boring. But at least I learned something new on computers. It was a bit more exciting. I learned how to do tender document. I learned how to think in systems, actually, which helped me a lot later in life, in many ways.
Okay, Tan Sri, can you get probably one last question?
Boleh.
5 minutes.
Azam.
Oh, Ari tak sorry Azam.
Ari mana?
Ari go ahead. Dia paling muda dan tak tanya lagi. Sorry.
Hi Tan Sri, just want to thank you for joining this Zoom session. So my question is, what do you think about the stimulus packages announced by the government to support the economy? And what do you think, after your years in Khazanah, what do you think the role of GLCs in adding more stimulus to the economy? Another question is, during your analyst years, besides taking CFA and being the go-to guy, what are other tips for you to stand out? Because being an analyst, there are multiple analysts from multiple research houses. And what do you do to stand out from the crowd?
Right. Yeah, I take the analyst one first, because it's precious in my head. In the 90s, in the early 90s, mid-90s, analyst was the go-to job. You paid a lot of money, you get to travel the world, you get to do intellectually interesting stuff, quite glamorous, you meet me. And Malaysia, for example, at that time, Ari, in the mid-90s, Malaysia was something like 15%, 15 of the Morgan Stanley Emerging Market Index. Today, that number is under 1%. So you bayangkan, you're talking some order of magnitude plus punya difference, right? Tenaga alone was something like, I don't know, 5% of the index. That's why tenaga was hot, right? And that's why I laku, because I knew a lot about tenaga, because I'm the junior guy in the basement at that time doing the management account. But I didn't know it at that time. When I was doing those management account, tak ada orang suruh pun kita buat. Pergi cari, tanya how the oil expert, bila dapat Goldman Sachs report, which was rare at that time, mana ada internet, I would read it back to front to back, back to front to back. Later, alhamdulillah, I became the top-rated oil analyst under Reuters for Asia but it's a bit of a sham no big deal actually. No, the point is you betul-betul work dedicated. You don't know what's going to come, but you have to believe. You put in the effort, you put in the hours, you put in it. Inshallah, ada your risky is somewhere. That you have to believe. This is my view. At that time,
thanks, Tan Sri.
Huh?
Sorry. You're not finished.
Yeah, being an analyst at that time was the go-to job because it was need. Today, I'm not sure whether that's a go-to job lah. Market is very boring. You tengok pun boleh comatose, sedih. In which field are you in, Ari?
I'm in the investment field. I'm an economic analyst with Quoc.
It's okay. It's a good field, but it may not be like it was dulu lah. So today, for example, the hot field could well be in startups, in green energy, for example. Kan? I mean, there's many engineers memang budak kolek. One of my special officer bukan budak kolek, he just joined Aerodyne, budak kolek, Aerodyne, the drone company.
Yes.
Maybe it's in those other. So these things move, right? So it's not necessarily. So my time, this was the go-to sector lah. Nak cari makan plus it's a window to the world. And one thing about upgrading, as I said, buat CFA, buat apa semua ni, I think it's important that not to underplay. And actually, I was at ITM before I was went abroad, and later I did something at UIA, local. You know, I'm now an adjunct professor at UTM. So by all means, you look for qualifications that bring you into an international marketplace, because especially your generations, kan, the world is okay. Dulu orang kata, oh, you must come back and serve. You know, when Talent Corp, Johan Marikan, he invite me to go and speak overseas. I kata, Joe, I will, but I will tell my views. Bila student tanya dekat Oxford, should we come back? I said, it depends. Then he looked at me. I said, you should be Malaysia centric, but if you are still learning and you're getting good experience overseas, jangan lupa your tanah air lah. But you should go out there and get the experience and that knowledge and the pay actually. So kalau ni dekat yang tadi Kiki, if in the Gulf, for example, in the Middle East, you know, a lot of Petronas engineers go and earn a lot of money. Why not? For a while lah. But then come back and serve at some point, right? To your question on stimulus, earlier, as I said, to me is baru support baru, because you know, if you look at the numbers, you know, how to talk about stimulus when we have not settled down, the dust hasn't settled. Second, I think the finance minister, YB Zaf, I think clearly is keeping his powder dry a bit, which I think is quite wise. But I think the gaps, the devil is in the detail, and a lot of the complaint, I think, is the gap in addressing specific, you know, SMEs and those yang above RM4,000 apa gaji, etc. Right? So there's all these anomalies lah. I think the devil is in those details lah, which I think they are progressively trying to address. So Boon.
Okay. Thanks, Ray. Got 2 minutes from the end of our session. Thank you very much, guys. I really want to listen to at least everyone. Macam Saini pun tak cakap lagi. I think siapa lagi tadi. We try. I mean, kalau buka sampai banyak tab, mati tab. No, they were waiting for them to be able to speak. You know, you tak sanggup tak bagi dia orang the chance to.
Okay, please. I'm sorry. Please.
I know, but it's going to be long, man.
Bagi Mazli a chance. Let's hear something from the outside.
First.
Sorry.
I guess I've got a very generic question for, I guess, from a senior to a junior, or junior to a senior. I see Amantep and you guys have probably gone through multiple recessions compared to us. How do you guys recover? What's your advice for us to recover? I'm obviously looking from the outside because I'm not in Malaysia. Kat sini dia punya policy semua set upon lain. I don't see policies being set on yet in Malaysia. How, as a person, how do you recover from recessions? As a person, how do you improve? And if you're like Ari kerja untuk orang, what if you're self-employed? How do you plan for? How do you work on planning for your next, if should there be another recession?
Yeah, I think, given that I think I probably have 1 minute, is it? Yeah, I think the short answer, Mazli, is I suppose you got to survive first. So, orang kata resilience is very important. I'm sorry, it's a bit of a generic answer. So before you do, again lah, you know, masing-masing kena.
Was it? I know we're a bit young to experience 3 other recessions, but was it as bad as it is now?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I probably difficult to advise you because, you know, the mid-80 recession, I work makan gaji, right? As an analyst, in LLN. The 98 Asian crisis, I was an analyst. But actually that one, those in that sector, while we were well paid, etc., many houses closed down. So UBS actually merged, but alhamdulillah, I managed to swing because we were ranked like number 1 or 2. Ada walaupun semua orang leaving Malaysia, ada yang masuk Solomon. Of course, they go and find the number 1 and number 2. They found us. So I guess in a way, it's keeping your excellence, which is on its own no guarantee that you're gonna survive. Obviously, I suppose in 2008 when I was at Khazanah, we didn't feel that too much, but I would argue we did a lot of stuff to the GLCs to make sure that boleh handle 1 torpedo ke 2 torpedo ke 3 torpedo. I think the one that we did not succeed was MAS lah, as you know, for a variety of reasons lah, long story. But many other companies, when we did the counterfactuals, kalau kita tak buat a lot of the restructuring, transformation and whatnot, they would probably have been in trouble. So it's about preparedness, right? Getting prepared. Now benda lah dah jadi, and the scale of that. So I tried to be an entrepreneur briefly in Afike, and that wasn't easy because, even though it wasn't really a crisis at that time, but we were small, and some months the founders of course tak ada gaji lah, bukan nak bayar staff apa semua dulu. But again, I don't think I'm really qualified to talk too much about entrepreneurship.
Because the landscape here and the landscape in Malaysia lain, because if you see 70% of the workforce here are self-employed because of the tax structure kan. You nampak although you work for Westpac, you're self-employed because you run it through your trust. So a lot of people are hit by that.
Right.
So sini I suspect a lot of people will be hit by depression more than recession.
Di mana di Australia?
Di Australia. Currently, depression is hitting more than recession.
This is economic depression lah.
Economic depression and personal depression too, because a lot of people are self-employed.
Betul.
I
don't have easy answers actually. I mean, honestly, all I can say is you can try to be resilient.
Tan Sri, if I may.
Okay.
We are memang dah masuk red zone. If possible, when there's slot, actually this whole thing was, I think, partly is Amok punya idea. He wanted this thing. He wanted to share mentoring, giving his. This is part of his berhikmat lah. Dia nak share. Betul Tab ah? Then Tab called me and suddenly that ada benda lah ni and probably if it's not 2 orang cakap kroni sangat, we can have him for 2nd or 3rd session. He got many things to share. And people also ask pasal MAS. So I don't want the discussion to be open-ended. So macam agak susah untuk kita corner because this thing is supposed to be something that people can take on from here. It's about leadership. The 7 points, the 3 metaphors. To me, it's very beautiful. Cuma if I can ask your permission in front of everyone here, Tan Sri.
Yeah.
Can this thing be shared to
other
people outside?
I don't think it's sensitive.
Yeah, I think it's.
You should share under MCOBA punya whatever lah.
Outside to Malaysia tak boleh.
I think once it goes out lah, I suppose.
Okay. No, that's the thing because what I like about you macam, okay, to be very honest, I tak terasa sangat impressed, inspired to be MCOBA. Not until these past few days when I do this thing, I write whatever you write, you wrote on this kind of thing. Macam, what one of the objective of IFL is basically to shake off this macam MCOBA nampak macam social club. Orang pergi sana, have time, pergi dinner, main rugby, And one thing that good pasal IFL ni, this is recorded, it is there, people can see, People like you can really blend well dengan all these juniors, It's really good, branding macam ada your girlfriend.
I should highlight actually on our journey, many more senior MCOBs help. For example, while kita social main rugby, the Datuk Khalid was the manager of our rugby team in the 80s. It was also like a recruiting ground. Tab got his job there. I was, we and later as an investment banker, Kelly was a client. Tan Sri Tajuddin Ali when he was at Tenaga. So they tend to take under the wing, but to be fair, I don't just do it to budak kolek, honestly. Of course, budak kolek, ada special bond in that sense, because you have to try to be fair at the same time. So yeah, to recognize all that. Yep.
Okay, fine. No, I'll give it to you, Tab. After this, you bagi your point closing, then I just officially, you know. I mean, that's the thing. I pun dah lupa apa nak cakap. So Tab, I just go it to you. You bagi. If you, this is what we, you know. The thing is, to outside people that we can see a Tan Sri, you know, former director of Khazanah, you know, that boleh bercakap dengan rakyat marahin macam I and a few juniors. To me, that is, you know, to us mungkin tak nampak. You know. When I first put this thing in the WhatsApp group, people macam, you know, krik-krik, senyap macam, you know, why should I talk to Amok? You know, that kind of thing. I got nothing. You know, I don't need anything from you macam, you get me? Except for the juniors yang datang kat sini, you guys are very positive, you know, tak ada macam that you know, prejudice punya mindset and whatnot. You know, you positive, you tanya, you're very sporting. To me, I appreciate you guys macam, you know, at least for now, Tan Sri, it is there. You know. People can see. You know. People can see the Tan Sri, the Datuk, the CEOs and whatnot. You can talk to younger MACOBs and not really inspire, but you lead the way. And for that, I give you to Tab to to wrap up a bit before we part off.
Thank you, Bun. Thank you, Tan Sri. Thank you, Amok. Dia selalu marah saya panggil dia Tan Sri. I think this is exactly what it's all about. I think the ability to bring all of us together to look at what is our responsibility, what is our, how do we hikmat to the negara, to all mankind, as I said. The ability to bring everybody in very short time. You know, you don't have to travel from Perth to come here, you know, that kind of thing also. And the ability also for all, especially in this case, we got a lot of the juniors in. I think that's really important in terms of what we're trying to do. Selalunya it's always been very much more very cliquish towards the top, towards you know, all the people playing golf and all that sort of stuff. But now we've been able to expand this right throughout the whole spectrum of MCOBA, and I think that's really good. And even where now a lot of the people on Facebook is actually much older, Tan Sri Said Daniel and all that stuff. And a lot of himself said thank you, Amok, and we will pass you their accolades, their comments as it goes along. But thank you again for all of you, all of us to be able to come together today. Azan has come in, so we're really out of time. So that's our cut-off point. Again, thank you, Bun. Thank you, Amok. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Okay, one last thing before we part off. Ada satu je nak tambah. Ada juga banyak request daripada luar tu, dia macam, can we bring down the standard? When we put you, and suppose next one is Zaf, because Zaf's man of the hour now because of COVID and whatever the stimulus package. But the thing is, bila kita panggil orang yang somebody lower, dia dah malu macam, you have not touched the Tan Sri or whatnot. But probably next month kita kena bagi sorry about your Tab punya batchmate is crony, but nothing to do with that. Adam Said, dia akan talk about, I think, Ramadan leadership is very good, ataupun dakwah to non-Muslim. We try to bring more like new blood, new young, you know, give them chance to showcase whatever their product they want, and you guys can mentor them, you can help them. We're gonna bagi, you know, we cuba shuffle sikit lah a bit now. Macam Hamdi cakap, we try to be more light on discussion. Your standard is quite high, Tan Sri, but if they see you in that discussion, they see that you are quite very humble. Okay guys, tak ada. Thank you very much. I love you guys. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for joining us. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, Bun.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Tan Sri.
Maybe we can go off Facebook Live and you can still carry on staying in there for a while. Thank you.
Okay, Facebook can off. We just have